Well, it's 12:01, so why don't we get started? So welcome everyone. I'm Mary Jetter from CDI, and co-presenting with me today is the fabulous, amazing
something.
Claire.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Hi, Sarah. I see you over in the chat too.
So we'll get started. You can see at the bottom of the slide here is the link to the workshop folder, and I will also put it back in the chat. Claire, I'll drive, you talk.
Sounds good. And we'll both be talking a little bit, I'm sure.
Yep.
So just as a side note, in case you haven't picked up on this, we are recording today. So just be aware. I don't think I see anyone who is participating audio only, but if you are, just as a side note, we're going to be using kind of a joint Google Doc. So if you don't have the opportunity to check that out, you can always come back and see the comments later or share your comments verbally. That's fine too. What else do we want to say? So I'll probably be doing a fair amount of the talking, and Mary will be talking too. So jumping in, and as you have questions, feel free to let us know, use the chat. Yeah, so the other piece is before we kind of get started with hearing from you all a little bit. So as I mentioned, we are going to be using a joint Google Doc to share 3 questions as we kind of go throughout the day today. So take a second. Navigate over to that Google Doc. So Mary's just showing you where it is. Yes, absolutely. We'll put it in the chat. So let me grab that real quick. And just by way of a quick little orientation, you'll see a couple of things that we've added for accessibility purposes within this Google Doc. So if you do something like this in a synchronous session in a class or even an asynchronous conversation, you'll see that up at the top of the doc, there is kind of a table of contents that's linked to different sections. And also, if you're in Google Docs, you can show the document outline. So you can always go to view document outline, and that will allow you to see, oh, hey, all right, let's see. Oh, and if you click the little button in the top left, that will actually open it. You go back to view document outline. There you go. Then a little, that'll allow you to kind of navigate within the document. And if you're setting up Google Docs, it's helpful to set up kind of headings that allow folks to quickly and easily navigate. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have questions about that, let us know. Just by way of orientation, these are the questions we're going to ask you to think and share a little bit about as a group in a minute. So don't get started yet, just to give you a sense of where we're headed. So also to model when you're using something new with a group of students, to give them some time to get oriented to the tool that you're using, whether that's outside of the context of class or in a class session. So let me pause for a second. Any questions from you all about the Google Doc that we'll be jumping into in a minute? I see, Emily, you have a hand raised.
Just, this is really naive, but could you clarify whether the focus today is on both synchronous and asynchronous learning online, or do you mean learning online in the strictly asynchronous sense that some people do?
Both. So we will definitely be talking about both. And if we lean more heavily on one than the other, feel free to jump in with questions if you have some that are specific to the way that you're teaching your classes, either fully asynchronous or synchronous. So both. We'll be talking about both. That's a great question. Thanks. Any other questions from you all about anything? I always like to give it a good few seconds. All right, awesome. Thanks. So coming back to the slides, I want to ask you all to think. So go to the next one.
Okay.
There we go, perfect. So we want y'all to think a little bit and take some notes in the Google Doc. So think about what your students have said about their sense of community or motivation in the classes you've been teaching this spring, this summer, or in the past too. You could talk about that. So these can be classes that you taught in the transition to remote teaching. These can be in-person classes, online classes. What have you heard from your students about their sense of community or motivation? So that's the question. So head on over to the Google Doc, take a couple minutes. We're just going to give a couple minutes here. And then we'll come back together as a group. So I'll keep an eye on time, maybe 2 minutes or so, and we'll come back together as a group. So we'll be quiet in the meantime so folks can take notes.
And lots of people are already jumping in.
Yep, have at it. Don't mind me nodding along with what you all are typing.
That's what I'm doing too.
I'm a nodder. So take maybe 30 seconds or so. So as we're coming back together, let me just address one question and then I'll kind of note some of the themes that I'm spotting in the comments that you're making. So one question is, a Google Doc can be hard to manage with a large group for sure. And looks like there are 38 people here. So it's a pretty sizable group and it can be a little hard to track what's going on and kind of monitor your cursor. So yeah, it can be. And also, how do people get to have these cute names? Yes, depends on how you log in. In terms of opportunities for sharing, there are lots of tools that folks can use. Sometimes folks will use the whiteboard in Zoom, and some folks find that easier. I mean, every tool kind of has its benefits and drawbacks in a way. So I know that there are other options that folks can use. Maybe using a shared spreadsheet would allow that, make that a little easier, but there are different things that you can use, but it can be a little hard to track kind of where things are for sure. So, oh, Mary says Padlet.com.
Yeah, one tool that I really like for this is Padlet, which basically is like an online bulletin board. So everyone can type in and it posts everyone's posts individually, and then you can set up how you want them to show. Claire and I are going to hang out a bit after this workshop. So I'll be happy to pull up one of mine that I've done in the past to show everybody. But Padlet is awesome for this, and it's also free.
Yeah, that's great.
Save it, export it.
Oh, you can export it. Oh, that's great. So I think one thing to keep in mind too is as you're thinking about what tools you're choosing, part of the reason why we like Google Docs, or at least I like Google Docs as a tool, is it's pretty accessible. You can set it up in ways that make accessibility more realized than in other tools. And it's something that students can access fairly easily from mobile devices. So if they don't have a working laptop, sometimes that can be a little bit easier. So, you know, again, everything has its benefits and drawbacks. It can be a little hard to follow, but you know, you can think about some of these considerations as you're making your choices about what you want to use. So So let's come back to the comments that you all were sharing. So I'm seeing a lot of folks saying that students really appreciated having been in person and building community before the shift to online, before the shift to remote teaching, and that's going to look different. And fortunately, there are ways to work on building community in online classes too, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. Some folks are saying students really appreciated the synchronous sessions and breakout rooms in order to kind of connect and stay connected. There's some research showing that fully asynchronous courses can present some challenges for folks staying connected, but again, there are ways to help promote that we'll talk about today. Mary, anything else you spotted in terms of themes in some of these comments?
Pretty much the same things. I was just going to respond to Sarah's comment in the chat. As Claire said, using a spreadsheet, or you could set up a table and have every, a 2-column table. So have everyone type in your name and then your comment, the table. So you could have, if you have 40 students in your class, you could have a 40-row table. So that would be another way that you could visually organize things.
Yeah, and if you have a small class, this might be easier, look a little different for sure. Awesome. Thanks. So you all are raising some comments or some challenges that show up in the research to some degree too. So let's come back to the slides for a minute and we'll share just a little bit about that. So there are a few things that students say in the research about community and motivation, particularly in online classes, and this is both synchronous and asynchronous. So hopefully, as your comments are reflecting that students' sense of community and sense of human and authentic connections to each other really matters, we can talk about some specifics and we'll share some specific examples of what that looks like. But that really helps with student retention and helps students feel motivated and connected to your course. Let's do the next one. Thanks. Yeah, so again, that's okay. That's totally fine. Students' connection with you all as instructors and with their peers, that also helps a lot. So, lack of anonymity, sort of connection there. Students report that it's hard to stay motivated, that it's hard to stay connected, especially in asynchronous classes when folks aren't necessarily having a ton of face time. So we'll talk more about that. And let's do the last, I think there's one more there. Yeah, so particularly for students with disabilities, there's some research showing that only about half of students with disabilities actually are able to get to accessible technologies or accommodations in online classes, which is a little bit lower than in-person classes. So there can be some particular considerations there. So this is what some of the research says. Happy to share a little more about that. So I think we can do the next one. We want to jump into just introducing a few strategies. And again, we'll talk about some specifics. We'll revisit some of these as we go along today. So some of the strategies we just want to present to begin with, and then we'll come back to this. So one piece is being a human. This is part of the reason why, as we were saying, as folks were trickling in, I'm a little bit of a sci-fi nerd, and you'll see an image here of a character from the show Star Trek: The Next Generation, Data. Data has a cat, it's important to know, but part of his character in the Star Trek series, part of what's interesting about his character is that he's grappling with these questions about humanity and how can he be a human. I think sometimes it can feel like when we're teaching an online class, we might feel like automatons to some degree, but it's important to think about ways to integrate our humanity into our course design, into the way that we're teaching our classes, and to remember that our students are humans too. Maybe this sounds obvious to folks, but I think it's a helpful reminder to be thinking about ways that you might unearth your students' humanity. And again, we'll talk about examples in a minute. Another piece that we'll talk more about in a bit, how you structure your course really matters. So having a clearly structured Canvas site, having a communication plan, a regular communication plan with your students, thinking about what we often describe as your course cadence. So are you communicating weekly on a particular day? How are you bringing folks along? Those are components that really can help students feel motivated and connected. Thinking to the extent that you have a choice about the balance between synchronous and asynchronous, to be thinking a little bit about what that means and how the balance of those two modalities can affect your students. One other component, providing timely feedback. Not that any of us here are guilty about being a little slow to grade at times. Me, I'm gesturing at myself. that's really, really important for students, particularly in Canvas. And we'll talk more about that. And then I have a little link here to some research about how being intrusive is how the researchers frame it. How being intrusive, no, don't click on it. I mean, you can watch it.
Okay, I clicked on it. Okay, it's a video just so y'all know.
Yes. Being intrusive, especially in the first few weeks, if you're noticing that students who are registered for your classes haven't logged on to Canvas, haven't checked out your site, if they're not responding to your assessments or assignments, to check in early and check in often, and to give yourself time to do that. It takes time to do that. So work that into your course planning. And that may cause you to think differently about where you spend the balance of your time. So be intrusive with your students, especially early in class. That helps with motivation too. Okay, so let me just pause for a second and check questions. So Flipgrid, yep. So students report that they like Flipgrid, yep, and VoiceThread, yep. Yeah, so Flipgrid's seen as a burden for students for an in-person class, but haven't used it much for online. Yeah, Flipgrid is something that is pretty, I think, fairly widely used in online classes, I think, at the U. So, and we hear from students that they like it and they find it useful. So
yeah, I used it with my students. I teach an online course in the summer for the international graduate students who are coming, and I use it for introductions, and it works really well. Students seem to really like it, and you can do some fun things with stickers, and they've really augmented the capabilities of Flipgrid. So it's a really fun tool if you haven't used it.
Mm-hmm. And it's supported by the U too. So it's one of a list of tools that you can get support if you're not sure how to use it. There are lots of resources available to help you. And it also, I guess one other quick thing I'll say, it allows students to kind of customize how they're going to show up within Flipgrid. So folks can use avatars or blur their faces or, apply different filters, which can be helpful, for folks to kind of protect privacy a little bit, but also to express a little bit of personality. So that's a piece. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's pause for a second. Any other questions right now before we share a little bit of an overview for the next piece? Yeah, feel free to keep asking questions via chat or say them out loud. I am 100% comfortable with being interrupted.
I have a question about asynchronous motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Are there straightforward tips or suggestions that we can use to build community, maintain motivation in those asynchronous courses? You mentioned that it can be harder, but what seems to work? What seems to help?
Mm-hmm. We're going to talk through a few of them, but Mary, you look like you want to say something.
I was going to say, Sarah, that's the perfect segue into where we're going next.
Yeah. So Sarah, we are going to talk about some specific examples, but if it doesn't seem enough or clear enough, jump back in and say, share a little more. Let's talk a little more about that. I think hopefully the next few examples will help. Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's start with that. And if we don't get there, let us know.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Mary, go ahead.
Yeah, so as we're moving on to the next part of this, so thinking about 3 key components for motivation and engagement. One of them is having a supportive environment, and so students know that learning matters and people matter. Also making sure that your aims are clear to the students, and so students recognize why they're learning what they're learning, why they're doing what they're doing. Coming back to the question of, is it worth it? And then the final piece of this is students feel that they can succeed. There's nothing worse than logging into a class and going, oh no, this is never going to happen, I can't do this. And it's really hard to overcome that initial sensation of, oh, what did I get myself into? So we're going to explore ways to do all 3 of these things in your class.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of these tips will be both applicable to synchronous and asynchronous types of teaching. So let's go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, okay. So before we go on, we're gonna go back to our friendly Google Doc here. And we'd like to take a minute and reflect on this question. So the second question. So when you're looking for evidence of motivation in a teaching context, what behaviors are you hoping or expecting to observe? And again, this can be face-to-face, hybrid, online, but just think about what are the behaviors you'd like to see that show you that students are motivated. So we'll go back to the Google Doc.
Just take a couple minutes and then we'll come back together here too.
About 1 more minute. Okay, so as I look through this, the words that are coming up the most are active, thoughtful, engagement, participation, asking questions, excited about showing their work to each other, being meaningful and thoughtful, bringing in what they've learned from other classes and applying it. So yeah, so these are all the things that we look for in both a regular class or regular face-to-face class and an online class. Claire, would you add anything?
Yeah, I think one of the questions that I have for us to consider, and we'll talk more about this too, but how do your students, so a thing for us all to reflect on is, do our students know what participation means, what that looks like? Do students know what engagement looks like? So as I've been involved in co-facilitating this workshop a couple of times, I keep thinking, you know, what if we shared this list of how we know motivation exists with our students? Not that I'm saying we all should do that with this particular list, but it's a way of asking us all to consider, are these expectations or are these hopes that we have, is that clear to students, or are we assuming that students just kind of know that already? Why? So just introducing a question for us to think about as we move forward.
Yeah, one of my little soapboxes is just reframing the idea of participation as engagement. Because a lot of times students hear the word participation and they think it means I have to raise my hand and answer a question. And you know, if you have a big class, it's not possible for everyone to participate in that way. Or even in a small class, some students might be shy. There's students for whom English is a second language and they might be self-conscious about their English. So reframing it as engagement. So things like asking questions, participating in group work, you know, kind of even those nonverbals can be really important in a face-to-face class. So that's one thing that I encourage you to think about. So as Claire said, talking to your students about what participation or engagement means to you, and maybe think about reframing it from the word participation to get away from that, I'm in high school, I have to raise my hand, that's what counts.
One other quick thing before we move on to, and thinking about Asynchronous sessions. So what does participation look like in a fully asynchronous class? So making that clear, whether that's with discussion boards or whether that's with group work in some other form. So making that engagement question really clear, what that means, what that looks like, how that's being assessed. Those are the kinds of things that can be really useful for students to know on the front end.
Right. You know, it can be participating in polls. One thing I personally would like to discourage is requiring students to have their cameras on, is to show that they're engaged, because not everyone is comfortable showing their space. They might not have a private space that they can share. Emily, yes, you have your hand up?
I was just wanting to follow up on something Claire just said about how critical it is to be transparent and direct about what engagement you're asking for from students, especially in an online asynchronous. And that makes total sense to me. I know it's something my students crave, but at the same time, I worry that spelling things out can lead to this like hyper assessment focused, you know, okay, I'm going to check off my boxes if I've made my 3 posts. And I just wondered, you know, if there's any thoughts you have about kind of balancing that.
Yes, I have some thoughts. Maybe we can leave it open for other folks to jump in for a second though, if that's okay.
Maybe while people are thinking, I'll just clarify a little bit so that if you are making a sort of laundry list of what engagement looks like, that it can actually stifle creativity or curiosity, because suddenly it becomes, okay, I know I need to perform these things as a, you know, and at the same time, I think the transparency is so important too. So I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah.
We're going to come back to this in a little bit, but one of the things you can do is co-create with your students a document. So, okay, let's talk about what engagement means in this online course. So having the students, you know, together with the students, defining some criteria that works for you and for your course. And this way it's not as top down, and students also have more motivation and buy-in because they're part of that creation process.
And I would add to providing flexibility in the assessments that you're offering. So flexibility on the one hand, but also a framework for being able to do them. So sometimes just leaving assessments or assignments totally open can feel really overwhelming to students. Like, what do I do with this? But to provide the possibility for creativity with some of those can be good. There's a really great article from a sociologist about having students choose their own participation goals from within a particular list. So there is some flexibility and ability for students to kind of select where they feel like they need to do some development, some professional development, but also it's a list. It's not an endless, you know, list of possibilities students might find overwhelming. So, you know, there are ways to kind of, that's a resource that I'll add to the folder that we're sharing with you all in case you're curious. So I like the idea of co-creating, providing some flexibility within a particular framework too. So I'm seeing some comments over here in the chat too.
Yeah, and I'll put in the shared folder with resources, some of the resources, because I've done a workshop in the past on reframing participation as engagement. So I will dig those resources up and pop those into the shared folder. And as Jared says, keeping the level of the student in mind. 1,000 level students definitely need to coach them more than in a 4,000 level class. Okay, well, let's move on and talk about having a space where learning and people matters and what that might look like. So things to think about. There's a lot of research that supports the connection between engagement and motivation. When there's engagement between the students and the instructor and among the students, they're more motivated. And then also when students feel that they can do this, when they have this sense of efficacy, when they feel that what they're learning is relevant to their lives, to their course of study, they're going to be more engaged. And then when they feel that they belong in the learning environment, and it doesn't matter if it's face-to-face or online, but when they have this sense of belongingness, that they belong to this community of learners, they're also going to be more engaged. So thinking about how engagement and motivation really work together. My background is teaching English as a second language, so I'm always using my hands when I talk. But thinking about how they work together to support each other. So students are more engaged when they're motivated, and they're more motivated when they're engaged. So some things that you can think about for what policies or things you can do to promote engagement before the class begins. So one thing you could do is set up accountability buddies and check-ins. So if you have a smaller class, you could assign maybe a pair or a group of 3, and their job is just to check in with each other, maybe once a week, maybe once every other week, depending on your course, just to say, how are you getting your homework done? How is it going? But helping them create a small sense, or a sense of we're doing this together. Rebecca, yes, there is research I can share. I will also pop that into Rebecca sent a question asking if we could share research on the concept of belongingness. I will definitely put that into the shared folder later. To create some community engagement is having a weekly discussion forum that's just for fun, so students get to know a little bit more about each other. Linked here is a document, and the document is also in the shared folder. There are about 40 ideas of icebreakers, but there are also things you could do during the semester. So one of them is share the most boring fact about yourself. Because it's always really hard when someone says, what's the most interesting or unique thing about you? I don't really boring about yourself. I like cats. But that actually spurs a lot of discussion because everyone wants to know how many cats you have. So it could be a vacation picture, a recipe, a funny meme, but having some sort of just a weekly just for fun is a way for students to get to know each other in this in this online environment that they might not be able to do since they're not seeing each other in class regularly. And like, oh, look, I just saw that picture on your phone. Is that your cat? So Claire's a sci-fi geek. I'm a cat geek. And then as Claire said before, providing frequent is really important. Other things, we've just talked about this, so being explicit in your expectations with your students. What do you expect in terms of how often they should be checking in terms of what participation might look like. And again, you could co-create that with your students. So are you going to have students use the hand raise function in discussion? So if you're all on Zoom together, how do you want to have students indicate that they have something to say? Should students use emojis to indicate tone in posts? Sometimes tone is really hard when you're just writing things out. So having students encouraging the use of emojis can help students indicate, oh, I'm just joking, or I think this is kind of fun or happy, or whatever it is that they're thinking about. Okay. Thinking about what are your basics. Giving audio feedback is excellent. Yes, I agree 100%, Heidi. What should students wear when they are logging on if you are doing a Zoom class, a synchronous class? In other words, should they have a shirt on? That might be kind of your basic. What should they be doing or not doing? Is it okay if they're smoking or vaping during class? What about drinking alcohol? Although you probably wouldn't know it because it's probably hidden, but or Claire added this one in, loud crunching. It's fine to eat while we're in class together, but make sure you're muted if you're crunching on something. So letting students know just kind of what your expectations are for when you are all meeting together.
Mm-hmm. And I'm seeing Emily's comment over in the chat too, that students miss the milling about before after class. So in synchronous Zoom sessions, what we hear from students is they actually like having the room open a little early and stay a little late over, let's say, office hours, for example. That's actually easier for students to access than to schedule a separate time. So that's something to think about, recreating that in a synchronous session. And then asynchronous sessions. So what ideas do folks, or Mary, do you have ideas about that?
That informal, so again, the informal conversation could be done in discussion boards, where students could also just post a question to each other. I would say if you want them to do that, the key thing would be for you to kind of gently remind them that that's there. Otherwise, they'll sort of forget about that. Going back to what Claire said about opening the Zoom room before or after, I have a son who just finished his junior year at UMD, and he was telling me that one of his instructors opened up the Zoom classroom a half an hour before, and it was a class in his major, and he's in a small major. And they got to talk to each other and just hang out, and they all knew each other really well because it's a small major. And he said that was one of the best things once they switched to online, was just having that open time. And the instructor wasn't always even there, but it was just a chance for them to kind of hang out in a virtual space. If you could share your plants, except for I killed mine.
Yeah. And Sarah, I like your offer extra credit for answering a classmate's question correctly and supportively in the online discussion forum. I was also thinking you could share an aspirational pets. So, you know, if you don't have pets or you don't have plants, people exist who do not have pets or plants. So what, you know, aspirational pets, do you want to have a unicorn or whatever, you know? So, yep.
Yeah. Or even encouraging the fun, you know, using virtual backgrounds. So, you know, if you have the capacity, use a virtual background, you know, something that's fun. So my background, I was saying before, is a bunch of hydrangeas from a field in Japan. So this is a picture I took in Japan last summer that I liked. I've also had Beaker from the Muppets behind me. So encouraging that's another way just for students and ourselves to show our personalities, because that's a little bit harder to do too in this virtual space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So some things to keep about, I'm going to kind of go through these because we have so much to say and not as much time left as we'd like. You know, some other things you can do: email students individually if possible, just to say hi. If you have a smaller class, you know, just maybe send 5 students each week an email just saying, hey, how's it going? Just wanted you to know I really appreciate what you've been doing, and maybe call something out. But making that connection can be really helpful. Again, if you have 200 students, this might be more challenging to do. You know, track if students are doing the readings, you know, look on Canvas and see where people have been engaged and reached out, as Claire said before, be intrusive to students who might not be spending as much time online as you think they should, or who are getting behind in the work. Having frequent low stakes assignments so students stay engaged, that can be really helpful just to keep them on task and going. And as we just talked about, opening the room early, staying late, and then using the breakout rooms just as for discussion. And you could even just take a short break and say, okay, I'm going to put you in a 5-minute breakout room now, just for you all to talk about whatever it is you'd like to talk about, like you would in a regular class. And just tell your students that's what you're doing and why. And then hopefully, I think once students get in a room, they're like, hey, how are you? They'll do that talking. A couple of other things you could do. You could also use a Zoom poll and ask students how engaged they feel. And it could be, how engaged do you feel at this moment? Or how engaged have you felt over the course of the class so far? So you could do a Zoom poll with that. You could ask them when they feel most engaged, when they feel least engaged. You could do this through a Google form, but just checking in with your students too and getting that feedback from them, how things are going. Okay. And then finally, letting your students know that you care. So this quote here came from a faculty member here on the Twin Cities campus in response to a survey we did right after the transition began in March. And he said, I plan to circulate an anonymous survey every other week that asks students to rate their level of focus, their time available for the coach, for the course, their need for the instructor and peer support, etc. I'm hoping that this approach will help me understand if my course plans are in synchrony with student capacity, signal to students that I'm listening and caring about their health as we all face this new reality. You know, every other week might be a lot. You could, you know, it's just whatever works for you. And if you feel that your students are struggling, sending out this sort of anonymous poll can get you some great feedback. And then again, it shows students that you care, and that really helps with the connection and the motivation.
One other quick thing I would say is, if you're doing this kind of polling, to make sure you report back to students what you find.
Yes.
So because that's really important. Otherwise, students will check out of those pretty quickly. So if you hear some feedback about something that you might tweak, let them know you're going to do it. If you hear some feedback about something you're not going to tweak, explain to them why, because that may be connected to your aims for your course. So that way it's clear that you're listening to what feedback students have for you.
Okay, and Claire, over to you.
Yeah. So part of what's really important as part of kind of this process and thinking about student motivation and building community is that students feel that the aims that you have for them and the assessments and your course content have value, that it's worth it to them, it's worthwhile to their learning, it's worthwhile to their futures. And so the first step there in making your course meaningful, so Mary, you can go to the next one,
Just, yeah.
is to actually know your students a little bit. So to find out, I'm looking at the chat at the same time, and there are some themes there that are similar, to find out a little bit about your students. So there are all kinds of template surveys out there that you can send to your students early on at the start of the semester to try to get a sense of who your students are, what maybe some of their challenges might be if they're working or if they have technological barriers, a little bit about their identities, names, pronouns, things like that. So finding out a little bit about who your students are will help you figure out how to make your course meaningful to them. One of the things I would always do, and this was mostly in face-to-face classes, is ask students about their lives. Ask, are they working right now? What are they doing? What do they hope to do in the future? It depends a bit on the class you're teaching, whether you have mostly majors or non-majors. You may know this already. But if you don't, what are students' goals for the future? That can help you connect with your course content. And then again, once you know a little bit more about your students, to help them understand the relevance of what you're teaching to their lives, to their futures. There's nothing more painful than a student saying, I don't care about this, this doesn't relate to my future. And then it's always a challenge for us to think about, okay, so how does this relate to their future job? How does this relate to what they're gonna need to be successful? And then always be clear with students about why you're asking them to do what they're doing. So if you hear feedback from students that something feels like busy work, which I've heard on occasion, that is a suggestion to you to be mindful about how you're framing it and its usefulness for the course and for their futures. So why are you asking them to do what you're asking them to do? So try to make that clear. Okay, I think we can go to the next one. So there are some ways that you can also have students engage in their own self-reflection. So to do some of this thinking work themselves, which can help a little bit with efficacy. So, you know, having students set their own goals. So we gave the participation goal example a little bit ago, to have them look through the syllabus and choose what topics they're most interested in. If you have flexible assignments where students can connect with their future jobs, that's a way to do it too. So be thinking about ways that you can ask students to do that kind of self-reflection work too. That's a possibility. And then next one, I think.
Yeah, the other thing I'll jump in here is, especially if you're teaching a class that's a required class or a class that students are taking just to tick off that gen ed box. The class I teach is required, and so I ask my students, why are you taking this course? And somebody will say, because I have to. I'm like, yes, you have to be here, but what can you get out of this class that will help you going forward? So that's a way to personalize their learning more.
I like that framing. And then part of engagement here too is introducing some variety in how you're doing your course activities. So you can think about doing some of these in a synchronous session and some in an asynchronous session. So obviously in a synchronous session, having some Zoom reactions, either with the thumbs up or raising hands in different ways. You can have folks share do a poll in a synchronous session, use the whiteboard as we talked about before. But even in an asynchronous session, some of these ways that you can engage students is to ask them to summarize something in a sentence, to use a 3-2-1, which is a particular assessment strategy where students choose 3 things, 2 things, and then 1 thing to say about a reading, let's say, or something that they're doing in class, to have students share what we call the muddiest point or something that's still confusing to them. Having students share their notes and then to just check and see where they're at or share notes with each other. So there are lots of ways that you can get some information about students about how they're learning and what they know, and to try to mix it up a little bit as you're engaging in these kinds of strategies. So let me just pause for a second. Mary, anything you want to add here? Just looking over at the chat. Introduce yourself survey. Yep. It's their first homework. Yep. And then thinking about ways that, we're going to talk about grading super briefly, not long enough, but whether you connect any of these things to grades. Sometimes grades get a bad rap.
Yes, Emily, the application card is when you ask students to take what they've learned, and then how would you apply it in the general context? How could you apply it more specifically? So just what can you do with what you've learned?
Great. Thanks.
Next slide.
Yeah. So the last piece that we want to talk about is how do you help your students feel like success in your class is possible? So there are a few strategies that you can use here. So I think we can go to the next one. So the first thing I would say, I was trying to find the most, what's the best way to say it? The most LGBTQ friendly shoes I could, since it's Pride Month. So I picked holographic docs, and all this is to say, put yourself in your students' shoes a little bit. So I was thinking about this earlier in our session when we were having a conversation, a related conversation. Think about from your students' perspective, if they're taking, you know, 4 or possibly 5 online classes simultaneously, imagine the range of skills, the range of tools that are being introduced that they need to keep track of and that they need to monitor. So put yourself in your students' shoes. Maybe they're holographic docs, maybe they're not, maybe there's something else. Try to imagine what it's like to manage all of those things and really be clear with them about the skills that they're gonna need to be successful in your class. Do they have those skills coming in? Even things that we think may be as basic as how to read, how to approach notes, how to approach homework. Those are the kinds of things that, depending on the level of student, they may not know. Yeah, so imagining the range of tools, it's overwhelming, right? So keep that in mind as you're thinking about planning for your course. So imagine what skills they'll need to be successful. Ask yourself how they're going to connect with you when they get stuck. You know, I think most, or perhaps all of us, are in the habit of saying, you know, reach out to me when you're confused. But if students feel like reaching out is not part of who they are, if they feel like they don't want to reach out because it signals that they don't know what they're doing, how are you enabling that? And this can be part of your reaching out strategy to them. And then as you hear from them, we talked about this a little earlier too, how are you going to change what you're doing in your class as you learn more about what's working for your students and what's not? So those are some questions for you to think about once you get to know your students a little bit. But in brief, put yourself in their shoes and understand kind of where they're coming from, what they're managing, and how to make things streamlined for them and for you.
One other suggestion I would add in there about helping students to connect with you when they get stuck would be to maybe have students come to virtual office hours in groups and just kind of assign times. And you could frame it as come and meet my cat. I have a 20-pound cat who's huge because he's 20 pounds and he's very photogenic. So I would, you know, I could hold up my cat, he's not here right now, and say, yeah, and so when you come to my virtual office hours, you can meet Rooney. But that can also break the ice so that they feel a little more willing to talk with you later on and not as reluctant to reach out. Oh, okay, Chris has a cat. Chris, what's your cat's name? We have to do a cat pause.
Yep.
Her name is Matilda.
Hi, Matilda, you're beautiful.
Oh my goodness.
And she enjoys Zoom meetings a lot.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
Rooney often I call it rue-bombing my meetings. So yeah,
Right.
back to work. Thanks, Chris. It's always nice to meet a cat. Okay, Claire.
And again, some of these is just a reminder for folks to be really, really clear and explicit about expectations. Oh yeah, calling office hours something different, like a roundtable discussion for sure. Offering an overview or timeline for each week. So for online classes, thinking about providing an overview for the course as a whole at the beginning. Often folks will do this in a short video, but also giving a 2-minute overview video of what students are doing, what the focus is, what the framing is for that particular week can be really helpful to bring students along. Scaffolding, so folks may have heard this term before, so how you break large assignments down into smaller chunks. Students report that that's really beneficial and helps them and helps you get a sense early on about whether students are really struggling or which students are feeling left out. Recognizing some of the non-technical challenges here. So these are linked to some documents that you can check out if you're interested in learning more. Thinking about helping students with some of those organizational skills so they don't feel hopeless. Not that any of us have any challenges with organization at all, but helping students with some of those skills and some focus skills. So even sometimes sharing little tips and tricks that have worked for you and being transparent with your students about the challenges that you face can actually be really humanizing too. So if you haven't heard of the Pomodoro technique, it was one key way that I made it through graduate school. I'm not gonna lie. So check that out if you need some help focusing. And then thinking about accessibility here too. Let's see. Let me pause for a second. Mary, do you want to add, or do you want to talk about the findability question?
Yeah, so the findability just goes back to making sure that your course site is set up in a way that students can find the information that they need. There was a research article, I think last year or the year before, that came out that showed that there's a definite relationship between findability and students feeling, can they succeed in the class? If they log into a course site and they can't find anything, then they're immediately going to feel less favorable about the class and the instructor. And I can put a link to that article. I can put that also in the shared drive. But one of the things that you can do is just create a short screencast video showing students how to use your site. Because we all set up our sites slightly differently or very differently from each other. But doing just a quick 2-minute, here's where you'll find this, here's where you'll find this, can really help students feel like they can succeed.
Yeah. And then non-technical challenges, Sarah, to your question, are can be things like managing the skills of sort of how do you organize your time, some of the things that we talked about a little bit, some of the ways that we think about how we show up in class, some of the accessibility, whether we are accessible as instructors. Some of the things that I've seen folks talk about there have to do with what it means to be proactive. So one of the things I would often talk about early on in class, especially at the intro level, is what being proactive looks like and how I expect students to reach out or what that might mean. So it's not just challenges that students have with using Canvas, but managing, taking an fully online course. Some of the skills involved there. And there are a set of skills both for students and for us. So hopefully that helps a little bit there. Let's see. Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, students have different ways of accessing material, mobile, Mac, PC, student versus instructor view. Yes, go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so Emily, when you are in Canvas, if you use design tools, it does offer you the ability to see how it looks within a browser, how it looks in a mobile device. So you can do that within design tools.
What's the design tools function, Mary, real quick, if you
So design tools is something that allows you to make your pages prettier, basically. It's something, if you want to talk sometime offline, I'd be happy to kind of show you. We could do a Zoom chat, but that allows you to see how it renders in different formats. Yeah, shoot me an email, Emily, and we can chat. Okay.
Yep, asking your TAs for feedback, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, yep, getting feedback from other folks about your structure. So one final piece to this section. I know we've shared a lot of ideas and a lot of resources. Of course, you don't have to do everything. You can't do everything, right? But hopefully we've given you a few things to think about, and we'll give you a couple reminders in a second and do one last question. But it's important to put your own oxygen mask on first. And by that, we mean to be aware of your own boundaries and limitations and be transparent about that when you can. I think for me, as I see our suggestions and as I see this moment, a lot of the suggestions have to do with expressing care and feeling. That can take its toll on us as instructors. That's its own kind of work. My disciplinary background is sociology, and we and other disciplines talk about emotion work or emotional labor. So we can talk at length about that if you're curious, but be thinking about your own kind of how you're managing things for yourself. And think about, as you're doing course planning, are there some things that you can let go of? And are there some things that you want to prioritize based on what we've talked about or what you're thinking? So just want to mention that super quickly here at the end. So one other piece, just to kind of sum up some themes to be keeping in mind. So just a reminder, this spring shift to remote teaching is not the same as teaching a fully online course. And I mean that in good ways and in challenging ways too. So keep in mind that a fully online course requires the effort to kind of set up a sense of community on the front end. But also students are coming into an online class with the acknowledgement and recognition that it is an online class, unlike the shift to remote teaching from this spring. So be thinking a little bit, again, to the extent that you have control, what the balance between synchronous and asynchronous modes will be for you. What we hear from students is having a balance of them both, if you have choice, is helpful. And then some options for folks who can't participate in synchronous sessions, We can talk about examples if you want more about that. Thinking about the different modes that you might be in, whether it's hybrid, some in person, or what folks are calling high flex, which nobody seems entirely clear on what that means. So, you know, as we have a little more information about where things are headed this fall, obviously you'll make decisions based on that. And the last piece that I want to say here is, even though we have the word motivation in the title, sometimes motivation is a little bit of a misnomer because it makes it seem like students' ability to succeed is individual. And again, as a sociologist, but also as a scholar of learning and teaching, motivation is at least partly structural. So it has to do with the institution, it has to do with how you set up your course. So it's not just about individual will, it's about how you can set folks up for success. So hopefully that makes sense. So let's go to our last Google Doc question and just give folks a couple of seconds to share a little bit about what you're thinking. It's just a couple minutes. What from this conversation, lots of examples and ideas, what's your takeaway? So head on over to our shared doc, head down to the third question, take a couple of minutes and tell us what your takeaway is from the session. Just give it maybe 2 minutes, then we'll wrap up. Okay, so maybe just 10 seconds or more or so, and we will come back together. If you have any thoughts that you want to wrap up in there, please feel free.
While we're waiting, I just put a link in chat to, there is a free virtual conference, July 13th, 14th. I think it's sponsored by Arizona State. It's called Remote, the Connected Faculty Summit. Let me share a different screen right now. Share screen. Okay, there we go. So you can see here, this is, there's a lot actually about engagement in this. So just kind of showing you quickly. So to transform engagement, interaction, and online course design, managing first year writing, statistics, yeah, creating a dynamic learning environment by leveraging technology. I am geeking out and super excited about this. So free, so definitely encourage you if you can. I don't know if they're recording the sessions or not, but I think it looks like a great opportunity.
I'll also add, I need to find this link, but for folks who are interested in digging into questions of equity and social justice in this moment, there are some good resources with some real specific things to keep in mind with your courses. So there's a good kind of, I hesitate to share a checklist, but it's a list of potential options that folks might be thinking about as you're thinking about equity within your classes. So I'll add that to the folder too. So yes. Okay. So as we are finishing up, I think the very last couple pieces, so if you would come back to the slide just for a second, Mary, thanks. So we do have a little evaluation link, which I think will also be coming out in the email that'll come out after the session with a link to the recording. So if you have a minute and would just let us know what you think, that would be great. And I can pop it. Oh, good. Mary put it over in the chat too. And then very last slide, just FYI, is some resources. And again, there's the link to our workshop folder. There's some specific resources that you might find useful if you're interested in more about any of what we talked about. And then one set of resources about discussions and teams or groups in classes. So there's a whole folder of resources specifically for that. So all the resources, every single one for you all. So I think that's it for us, right? Anything else you want to throw in?
No, we're just really glad you joined us. And
Yeah.
said before, Claire and I are going to hang around for a while. So if you have specific questions, we're happy to stay around and ask. And also feel free to reach out to either of us at any time, or CEI in general. This is what we love doing, and we're really happy to talk with you.
Absolutely. Yep. Thanks, everybody. Hope you get a chance to enjoy the beautiful weather / sun today, if you can. If you're not outside right now, get a little sun on you. Thanks, everybody.
Yep, thank you.